Hello, and welcome to our very first episode where we're walking through together as a class. Today, we are getting started on the value practice page for the Still Life project. You're going to need a couple of things. First, this packet is what we'll be working on. If you do not have access to this, you can find it on our website for this unit and print it on your own. We are also going to be working from a lesson guide for the Still Life project. It looks like this. This is the cover. We are going to be flipping this open to the page that says Step Value Scale. So go ahead and do that with me, and we'll have that just sitting out next to us. Now at this point, I would like to show you the materials we are using for this practice. Each table will receive its own block of supplies. It's going to look like this. You can see that each student gets their own section. So you are going to have access to all of the tools in one section, the one closest to you. The tools you'll receive will be a 6B pencil, a 5B pencil, a 3B pencil, an HB pencil, a blending stump, 2 types of erasers. Here's a kneaded eraser. This is more for large areas that you want a soft erasing line with. This is a sharp eraser where you can remove a solid line, and it's more for spot erasing. We also have a sanding tool meant to clean the blending stumps. So when they start to get dirty, you can just sand off that section. Be careful to sand at an angle so you're maintaining the point, but you get the point. But we don't want to rub along that flat edge because it's going to make it really dull. And that'll be dull for your drawing too. But we are going to have one last supply for each student. You'll have a chamois. This is a little piece of leather, essentially. You might have experience using a tissue that you wrap around your finger to blend, but this is just a better version of that. So if you could go ahead and take out all 4 pencils and the blending stump that we are going to use. We're completing a follow along portion of the video. So go ahead and grab those pencils. At this point, I would like for you to have your packet and your lesson guide out. If you're right-handed, put your lesson guide on the left so that you can be drawing and still see what it says. Now, we are going to begin by trying out all of the different pencils together. So let's take our 6B, and we are going to write darkest. And I'm going to write 6B, and then I'm just going to make a tiny little value scale with it. Go ahead and do that with me. All right, now we're going to take our 5B and we're going to write dark medium. And we're going to write 5B in a little value scale. Now we're going to come in for 3B and we're going to say light, medium, and we're going to write 3B and add a little value scale. You probably guessed it. We're going to write lightest. Wah! And we're going to write HB and then a little value scale. And you are able to move these around on the packet if there's not quite enough space right there. Don't forget to go ahead and put your name as well, because this is something that looks exactly the same for everyone. So make sure that you are not going to have yours taken or lost. Now, we are going to go through and complete this together as a follow along. So I want us all to pick up our 6B pencil. Now, when we were practicing, you might have noticed that you get more of the pencil lead on the paper with the 6B, and it's because it's a softer lead. So let's practice working with this soft lead. And what we're going to do, take your 6B pencil, and we are giving ourselves a border all the way around number 10. And we want this to be the hardest that we can fill it in. We want it to be so solidly filled that it looks kind of reflective, kind of shiny. So let's do this together. And as we're filling, we are not using lines. We are not going like this. We are filling in with small overlapping circles. So as you're working here, I want you to switch. If you're working with lines, let's switch to tiny little circles, and we can add as many as we want, overlapping them, so we don't have any little white spots. And I refer to those little white spots that are inside of the scribble circles. I think of those as like the donut holes. So if you have like a little white donut hole left showing through from your scribbles, that means you need to go back and fill. Now go ahead and blow away your crumbs. Make sure that you've got all the way up against the edges. Okay, now we are going to move into value number 9, and we are just gonna slowly start transitioning out. So let's go ahead and we are going to just add in the next layer, and notice how much lighter I am right here. Now that's probably a little bit too light, but it's always better to start out lighter because then I don't need to erase to fix it. So I'm using my 6B pencil still, and I'm working all the way through value 9 with these small circles. Now pause and think, am I using lines or am I using circles? Now we're gonna go all the way to the bottom of value 9. Let's check, make sure we've got all of our borders filled in and that it's not patchy. So fill any of those patches, and it should look subtly lighter than value number 10. Give you a second to do that. Now, something I want you to think about for this next box especially, as we are starting to get lighter and lighter, we need to adjust the pressure on our hand. So something that I find very helpful for myself is to set my hand down on the table. So for this next one, set your hand down, and we are just going to be slowly working in rows, and we're using rows of circles that are slowly overlapping with the next row. So see how that slowly fills in that texture to be nice and consistent? That's much better than if you're working with lines. Now, when we're making these rows, we want them to go across, not up and down. So let's go ahead and start on value 9. We'll begin up against the 9 value rather than at the bottom of 8. And we are pressing lighter than we think we are gonna need so that we don't have to come back and erase. We're using very small circles here. I'd like to remind you at this point, while we're working on filling this, that if you at any point need more time to work on any of these steps, you are always welcome to branch off on your own and come and collect a pair of headphones so you can listen at your own pace on your own device. So that is an excellent option for those of you that might need more time, and that's not a bad thing. Everyone works at different rates with art. Now, we are going to continue using our 6B pencil in value number 7, but we are going to switch pencils soon, so make sure you don't go ahead. Now, we are going right up against value 8, and we're pressing lighter so that we can see this transition. Now, I'm pressing lightly with my hand. It's resting on the table, so I'm not adjusting my pressure as I'm drawing. I can maintain that consistent angle of pressure on my pencil. Now I'm just kind of dusting this one. It's not very filled in. I'm just kind of going across it now, not with circles necessarily, just kind of patch filling to make it look nice and even. Now we're going to continue as we are working through, and we are going to take our 6B pencil all the way through to value 5. So I'm working on making 6 just a little bit lighter. And then 5 is going to be as lightly as I can color with my pencil. Now let's practice that. So we're going to come in here and just like the lightest little circles. And I'm using the flat edge of my 6B pencil where I had kind of gotten it a little bit flatter from putting so much pressure on it above. So we're just helping this to be a little bit lighter than value 6. Now, here's my problem. 7, 6, and 5 are all very similar. Let me talk you through how to fix that, but first I'm going to give you just a moment to get caught up and to make sure that you don't have patches. So take a second. We're just going through and looking for any patches, especially between the boxes and up against the sides. So let's go through here, just patch filling. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to fix this problem, and I want you to take a look at yours now and think to yourself, are any of my values too similar in tone? So what we are going to do here, we are going to come in and say, okay, I think that 9 could be maybe just a smidge darker. I'm going to start up at the top and I'm going to slowly darken as like a trickle effect. So now I'm going to come down in value 8 and I'm using the same pencil, my 6B, to go through and try to fill in this value so it's just subtly darker so I can extend the darkness down farther and help these have a different value in each box. So I'm just darkening them as like a trickle effect, working my way down. And again, I'm using circles and small rows. That means I'm going across, not up and down. Make sure your direction is accurate. Now we're going to continue working into value 6, but we want to make sure that it's different than value 7. So I'm just very subtly adding just a little light layer here, making sure all of my borders are the same value as the box that they are in. Now I think I could probably still make 7 look a little bit more drastically different from 6. Okay, here we go. So I'd like for you to take a look up at the board. I want you to notice the full range of values that we've got here. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to come in for layer 2, and we are switching to our blending stump. So let's go ahead and set our 6B pencils down, and you can pick up your blending stump. Like I said at the beginning, we've got these sanders. You're welcome to sand the graphite off if you do have extra. Sometimes they look dirty and they are still completely functional and good to use. They just are a little bit black at the end, and that is not an indicator that it's not good. So if yours is darker, that's totally fine. Now we are going to continue with our blending stump. I'd like to have you watch this part first and then try it. So we are going to start in our lightest value so far. So we've got 5. I'm going to use the side of my blending stump, so I'm tilting it, not using the point, but I am using the side edge here. And I'm going to just blend that and push the graphite into the paper so that it's as smooth as I can possibly make it. So we're just smudging that into the paper. All right, next we're gonna work our way up, but we want to do these boxes at separate times. So do not start blending all the way through. It will not work as well as you think. So we are just working on value 6 and working our way up. So as you reach that level of smooth texture, that's what we're looking for. So no grainy spots. It almost kind of looks, when we first draw with a pencil, it almost looks like a chalkboard kind of texture, just kind of rough and grainy. But we are going through and blending that away. Now, we have quite a lot of graphite on our blending stumps. I want you to take your blending stump now and to test it and see how much you've got on there. It should be a small amount. If you've got a ton, you can always like just draw a lot with it on the side and use that to help you remove some of your graphite. But we do want a decent amount because for this layer 2, we're only using our blending stump. So we're going to continue values 4 through 1 with our blending stump exclusively, no pencils. So we're gonna check how light we are. And now I'm gonna come in so lightly. I'm just like dusting this because we wanna get lighter and lighter. So I'm helping my 4 to be lighter than my 5, and I'm using small circles and just barely grazing the paper. It takes a really light hand to make this successfully smooth. So really lightly filling that in. Take a moment, make sure you've got all the edges. All right, now as we continue down, we are going to maybe even consider hopping down to value 1. And I am going to just fill this in as lightly as I can. This is like the lightest possible value. So just like a light grazing here. And now I just need to bridge the gap between 1 and 4. So I'm going to help 2 get just a little lighter, and I spun my blending stump in my hand because that gave me access to the side that had more graphite. Sometimes it just takes a quick little spin. But if you do ever run out of graphite on your blending stump, say you did not have enough to finish, what you could do is come up to value 10 or 9, just draw and smooth out that space a little, and voila, you've got a brand new, it's almost like working with a paintbrush in some ways, because you are loading your blending stump up with graphite. There's no actual supplies that comes out of a blending stump. Now at this point, I'm gonna take my blending stump and just make sure that all of the values are the same. So, are different, that are separate in these boxes. Now, looking at mine, I am not done. We just did our second layer. There are 3. So now I'm going to switch to either my HB or my 3B because these are harder pencils. So remember when we were practicing our different textures that each pencil makes, the HB was a much lighter pencil because it's a harder lead. So that means less of the pencil comes off onto the paper compared to the 6B, which is really soft, and a bunch of the lead comes off on the paper. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to come all the way back to value 9, and we are going to use the HB to fill in the texture and make sure that all the way up against the borders is completely filled in. And then we can, as we work our way down, even adjust our values to help make sure that they are changing as we work our way down this scale. So I'm just going through and looking for any light patches. Now, something you can do that feels a little silly at first is to take your eyelashes and kind of blur your vision by putting your eyelashes slightly in front of your eyes, and that will help you to see and kind of locate which areas in your value scale are subtly lighter. So we are going through, we're doing this together, so make sure you've got your HB and you are just coming through and slowly adjusting these values. And I started to darken mine just a smidge. I saw that I could go a little bit darker for value 5 to help these values be more different from each other. So let's go ahead and take a minute to work on this together. We're just going through with our HB. All right, now we can use our HB all the way through to 1. I said no pencils for the actual creation of the value, but the adjustments of the value, you can use your HB. Now I'm just going through and so lightly, I'm like barely even touching this paper with my HB or 3B pencil, the harder leaded pencils. And I probably will not adjust 1. And then our last value, we leave pure white because 0 is the lightest that we can get. Now at this point, I would like for you to collect your value finder. You all have one on your actual page of your packet, but you can also receive a pre-punched one as well. They are located in the front of the room. this is what they look like. And you are going to take this value finder and you're going to check your values now. So for value 10, and I'm gonna just like cover this up so you can see. For value 10, I'm holding it over to see if it matches, and that's the darkest I could color. So although the value is technically a little darker, that's okay. Now for value 9, we can see, okay, yeah, that circle pretty much disappears. For value 8, same. 7 is getting a little bit light. So see how after checking, I was like, oh, maybe 7 could go a smidge darker. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this little circle opening, and I'm gonna fill it with the value that does disappear. And then when I remove it, I can help my number 7 match that little circle that I made, and it will help me to match the values accurately. So this is how we check it. It's not a guesswork here. We are actually matching values. So 6 could also be a bit darker. So I'm gonna take my circle here and I'm just trying to match the value that is on this paper here. Okay, oh wow, I was much darker there. So see how this shows me I need to go quite a bit darker on 6. And now I'm going to just go through and work on matching that value. So we're matching all the way around 6. We want to really make sure that that circle that we kind of filled in from the value scale disappears. Now let's try with 5, and that's pretty close. I'd say just a smidge more probably here. Yeah, I'd say that's good. And I wasn't too far off, so I'm just gonna go through and make the rest of the box match. All right, now let's try 4. Ooh, I was a bit off on 4. So we are gonna darken that up. Let's go for that. I'm gonna just match that here. We're just using those small circles, and we're trying not to overlap the circle because that is already dark enough. So trying to avoid that little circle we filled in. Now let's check 3. Ooh, still a little light. So we really want to make sure we're matching here. So I'm just going to come in and match that circle that I filled in from the value scale. And again, using those tiny circles, don't forget, don't start using lines. It really does show. We want to go all the way to the borders too. Now for 2, let's check it. Maybe just a smidge darker. Yeah. And then 1, I think we'll probably be able to leave alone. So we're just going through, filling those patches. And maybe one last little brush over 1. And we can check it. Now I can go through and check all of these values. We've got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, so it all matches, and that is what is your check for yourself before you move on to the next step. Mastering this stepped value scale is really important before you move on to the sliding value scale. So congratulations on your first pass, your first practice, and I will see you in the next video to learn how to complete the sliding value scale. Thanks for watching.